Why do I have to thank them for watching? They should thank me for cooking.
Oh my God, perfect.
Mapo tofu is probably one of the most famous Chinese dishes. You can find it in any Chinese restaurant around the world. Today I'm gonna show you how to make it the authentic way, the Sichuan version. Once you've learned it, you don't have to order it anymore. You can make it yourself, and it's probably better. Should we start making things? The essential part of this Mapo tofu recipe is the texture of tofu. Ideally, you will use soft tofu for Mapo tofu. It's the texture between firm tofu and silken tofu, more towards silken tofu. After me trying like 4 or 5 different tofus, I found this one. I find it's the perfect texture for my Mapo tofu. It's called tofu blando. Yeah, but this recipe won't be blando. It will be a lot of flavors. I'm not sure if you can get the exact same kind of tofu at where you live. I would say if you're really new to cooking tofu, just use firm tofu. If you want to create more of the authentic texture, use silken tofu if you can't find tofu blando or like soft tofu. They are both fine. Don't use smoked tofu or, I don't know, like tofu puffs. That's illegal. I will tofu shame you. Anything that comes in a box of water, so if it's sealed in the water, it's fine. When I'm home, I'm always start everything by making rice if I'm eating rice that day. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how to cook rice in a normal pot, so I asked the company to buy me a rice cooker. After 3 years, they did. This is my Christmas gift. Then I'm gonna rinse the rice 1 or 2 times. So there are different ways of how to measure your water to a rice. 2 of them that I know. One is that to put your finger on top of the rice and it should go up to your first knuckle here. The other one is to lay your palm flat on the rice and should go up to here. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not scientific, but it works. You know, there are a lot of things in this world that doesn't have to make sense. So my rice is at the right... My rice is at the right place. So my rice is at the right place. I'm gonna start with the actual first step by toasting some Sichuan peppercorn. Here's about like 1 teaspoon, maybe a little bit more, but that's fine. We're gonna put it in a small cast iron pan and toast it on medium low heat. Well, while it's toasting, we could chop some things. So I want to really finely mince the ginger and the garlic so they will actually melt in the sauce that you want tasted. I love all the aromatics like Guardian. What is Guardian? That's my new film, Guardian of the Galaxy. Where's the towel? Thank you. Ich danke Ihnen und bleiben Sie gesund. Do I peel my ginger? I do not. Okay, let's see our Sichuan peppercorn. So this recipe calls for Sichuan peppercorn powder, but I find most of the store-bought powdered version are quite bland. So I would always do the step. Fun fact, it's actually not a pepper, it's a citrus fruit. So it has a really nice citrusy and like refreshing flavor when you toast it, and it will help release the flavor. I said I'm a lazy person, but this is a step that I don't want to skip. If you smell, it's actually very citrusy. Cool. Then it's toasted. I'm gonna grind it with mortar and pestle. So why is Mapo tofu a iconic Sichuan dish? Because it has this mala flavor profile. So ma means tingly, obviously coming from the Sichuan peppercorn, and la means spicy, coming from the combination of the chili flakes and this chili bean paste. Well, I said ma means tingly, but Mapo tofu, the ma from Mapo tofu doesn't mean tingly. It has a very fun origin story. In mid-19th century, a couple in Chengdu near a bridge, they opened a tofu bistro, and the wife had some freckles on her face, so she got the nickname Miss Freckle Face. It's pretty bad, like not polite. But anyway, they sell this kind of like tofu dish, which is braised in spicy sauce. And then this tofu dish got a name. It's called Mapo Tofu, which actually just translates as Miss Freckle Face Tofu. Next up, we will handle the tofu. I will parboil the tofu, which means to put the tofu in simmering salted water for about a minute or 2. This will let the whole tofu firm up a little bit and also gives it a bit more flavor. Voila! You should be really gentle just to dab the water. Yeah, And then we're gonna cut it. Ideally, you should cut them into like 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter cubes, but it's also fine if it's not so even, because I did that too. So the water is simmering. I'm gonna put the tofu in. It doesn't have to be really aggressively boiling, which probably sometimes break the tofu or cook the tofu. Yeah, so light simmer is good. Ooh. Sorry, I made this weird sound. Okay, I'm gonna fetch it out. Gentle. Okay, some of them broke. Break tofu instead of breaking hearts. That's my slogan. So in the same wok, we are gonna fry the minced beef. So many recipes, or even now in a lot of restaurants, they use minced pork, which is completely fine, but I'd like to stick to the most original version, which use minced beef. For this recipe, I recommend you to use a wok. There is a lot of oil in this, about 3 to 4 tablespoons. That seems a lot for this much beef, but the key is to get the beef really crispy, which provides a really nice texture contrast to the very soft tofu. So get it hot on medium-high heat, and we're gonna fry the beef. Just constantly breaking them up with your spatula so they are small pieces, not like a giant beef patty. So many of you might ask for a vegan option. I would say use the same recipe, just replace the minced beef with finely chopped shiitake mushrooms, because everything else is, I believe, quite vegan. Quite vegan. 90% vegan. So they are golden and crispy. I'm gonna take them out, put them on a plate lined with paper towel so we can soak up the oil. Now we're gonna make the sauce. 2 very important components are those 2 that I brought the packages. This one is fermented chili bean paste called 豆瓣酱 in Chinese. This one is fermented black bean called 豆豉. Before putting them directly in the pot, I am gonna chop them, which release the flavor of the bean paste, and also they will kind of like melt better in the sauce. I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon of the bean paste, and then about half a teaspoon of this fermented black bean. Yeah, I'm just gonna roughly chop them together, because this bean paste, if it's from this place in Pixian, it comes like with a little bit chunks. There are a lot of fermented bean paste. If you are into Asian cooking, there are Korean doenjang, Japanese miso. I don't encourage you to use them interchangeably. If you want to cook Mapo Tofu, get the Chinese fermented chili bean paste. This is rather harder to find outside of China, I would say. If you can't find it, you can skip it, but this for sure, never skip it, because that's one of the key things. I am only using 1 tablespoon of this bean paste because I tried it with 2. It was kind of too savory, too salty. It varies from the brands, so if you use another brand, you can actually taste it. Yeah, it's really salty. Yeah, just chop, chop, chop. All right, then we're gonna mix the starch with some water. Just a little bit. Alrighty. Then in the same wok, we heat up about 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Instead of garlic and ginger, we start by frying this. This is a very common practice in Sichuan style cooking, is to fry the fermented chili bean paste first until it releases aroma and flavor. So fermented chili bean pastes are actually made from fava beans, and then the black soybeans and tofu is made out of soybeans, and we're gonna use soy sauce, which is also made of soybeans. So this is just 50 shades of beans. Okay, come closer. Yeah, you can see some of the red oil comes out. That's good. That's where we add garlic and ginger and fry briefly until they release their aroma. Everything has its own aroma. And then chili flakes. And now put back the beef we fried. Next, we're gonna add some chicken stock. If you're gonna do the completely vegan version, use vegetable stock or just use water. That's completely fine too. So bring it to a simmer, not to a very aggressive boil, and then we add the tofu back in. I would recommend use something like a rubber spatula. So if you use like a stainless steel, it might break the tofu. And one technique that all the chefs are talking about is to use the back of your spatula instead of the front part of your spatula. So actually go something like this to gently push the tofu to the side, and then they will be evenly distributed. Or you can just shake your wok so the tofu can be soaked in the sauce evenly. Then we will add a dash of dark soy sauce for the color, just about 1 teaspoon. Let the tofu simmer in the sauce for a few minutes to absorb the flavor. And then in this recipe, we will add the starch water in 3 times. That is also a trick I learned from like Sichuanese chef, because tofu releases water while it's cooking. If you add the starch water all at once, it will be thinned out at the end. That's kind of a trick to make the sauce in the end very glossy and velvety. Make sure that you mix this again, even though you mixed it before, but starch and water, they're not the best friends in the world. They can get separated after 1 minute. So do it again before you put it in the pot. Okay, so I'm gonna add the first time. Okay, then second time. So you want to let the sauce heat and bubble a little bit between each time you add the starch water, so maybe a minute or 2 would be good. So this is on medium-high heat because you need that heat for the starch to activate and also binds the whole sauce together. You can actually see the difference in the sauce. Was like thinner before, now it actually thickens up and looks really nice. So I'm gonna add the last batch in. This is the wrong way of doing it. Only in one direction. The mystery of Chinese cooking lies in a British pop band. So as the sauce thickens up, I'm gonna add about half a teaspoon of sugar to balance out the saltiness of this dish from the fermented chili bean paste and also the fermented beans. The last thing I'm gonna add is the Sichuan peppercorn powder that we made in the first step. I will only add half of it because that kind of binds into the sauce and makes it really tingly, and then the rest of them will come on top. I will use a sieve because I only want the finer bits in this. Yeah, I said only in one direction, but I'm breaking the rules. That's how rebellious I am. Okay, this is done. We're gonna put it to a deeper dish. This is important because we want to keep the tofu hot. Eat it while it's hot, with rice, of course. I feel like I'm drooling. Looks gorgeous. I'm just gonna put some scallions on top. Traditionally in Sichuan, we use garlic sprouts or garlic ring, but I couldn't find it anywhere here, and scallions is like a very common substitute for garlic ring in this recipe, and I think it works out great for the color, for the taste. I'm gonna put the rest of the Sichuan peppercorn powder on top of it. So the rice is cooked. It looks really fluffy. I just love rice cooker. I can't live without a rice cooker. What's your opinion on rice cooker? What's the kitchen gadget you cannot live without? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a trick. So here's the trick for how your rice look perfect in your Instagram picture, is to use this kind of a small round bowl and then just press it down. Once it's filled, press it down. Sorry. And then in the bowl that you're gonna take picture of, yeah, Instagram live, we all know it, and then just put it upside down. And then you will have this perfectly, maybe not perfectly, but like kind of round, cute little rice hill. Yeah. So here's my Mapo Tofu. I've been making this a lot during the pandemic and in the last few weeks, but I'm still super excited to try it. It looks gorgeous. You know the feeling where something just melts in your mouth? There's actually a Chinese word for it. It's called 入口即化. It means entering your mouth, it melts. And this is that, like it melts in your mouth. The tofu texture is just so brilliant. It soaks up the sauce. The sauce is a combination of spicy, tingly, umami, but you can also taste the crispy beef in it, which is just perfect. I hope you learned this Chinese word. Yeah. This is my version of Mapo Tofu. Let me know if you like it in the comments. If you don't, then probably don't comment. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel, Kitchen Stories, to watch more videos from my brilliant and cute colleagues. And see you next time. Ciao for now. Melt again.